beginning of a beautiful story. And I'm your Blaq Mermaid. But every child knows that they can be artists. But as you grow older, you need to really, truly remain that artist. And for me to seal the deal in saying there's no mermaid that lives outside the ship, I belong here, I needed to make sure that I carry that and never give up. I belong here. I belong here. Hello, Captain. Welcome on board Unlocking Ocean's Economy with Captain Londy Ngcobo. Welcome to my story. Come on board with me. I want to share with you a short story. I grew up in the Claremont township in South Africa. So in Claremont, they'd introduced a subject called maritime studies. And maritime studies wasn't well received by most people because, as you can imagine, in the township, there's close to no swimming pool. The only thing that just kept lingering in our eyes, in our noses, in our ears, was mainly just the Titanic. What if I die? Going back home to tell my parents that I'm going to be going away to navigate ships. I'll be gone to learn and come back home maybe for a month. It hit differently, and I think that's when I started feeling a bit more doubts around my society, in that this career choice, they'd never seen it being done. And so there was a couple of things being said: you're black, you can't swim. What if you die? What if your parents die while you're out there? Surely you're going out there for prostitution. We've never seen a girl captain a ship. So all of those were quite doubtful, but they also instilled a bit of confidence in me, in that I can silence most of the noise by just virtue of chasing a dream. This is Singapore. Fast forward, I'm in this big ship, and South Africa has said goodbye. I had a braai. My friends are like, don't worry, we'll look after the boyfriend. But the interesting thing, when I got on board the ship, yes, it was scary. This is a huge ship, a 50,000 gross tonnage ship, lots of containers. And I'm thinking to myself, what are you doing, girl? Got there, got greeted by the captain, and I was shown my cabin. Now, this is what is painted. A penguin suit like this. White shirt, gold bars, you name it. I got there, shown my cabin, I wore overalls, I scrubbed toilets, I made coffee, the likes. But by all means, Captain, because I know that I have to be groomed. And much what I see today, when students are done with varsity, they're like, I've got good maths and science, so I'm as qualified as you are. And that's not it. The grooming that needs to happen to industry needs to come with full-on respect. I respected that through and through. I made 50 cups of coffee. But with time, I realized I needed to protect myself. And I think that we lose authenticity with time. We think that we need to pull up these walls. And I did start pulling up the walls because I knew I was the only female on board the ship. I knew I was the only person of color on board the ship. And I knew I was young. And I knew nothing about the ship. So I started pulling up this wall. And with that came major delays in my progress, in my training. Got to the next hub and I called my mom. And, Londy mntanam, kunjani? I hadn't spoken to her for a long time. And I said, Ma, you're right. I think for me, I knew that the dream was sealed much deeper. Only at that age, when I could be crumbling and saying, oh, I'm not. I said, Ma, you're right. And I really was. I woke up the next day, went up on board at the forecastle of the ship. You know where Jack and Rose stood? I'm sure most of you know where Jack and Rose stood, the most famous scene. I stood there. I saw dolphins chasing the bow of the ship. They went, the fly fish, not the cider, the fly fish go over the dolphins. And it's just so sacred. And from then, I knew that some sort of a brand came through, because I was imagining Ariel from The Little Mermaid, but I'm a Blaq Mermaid. Beginning of a beautiful story. And I'm your Blaq Mermaid. But every child knows that they can be artists. But as you grow older, you need to really, truly remain that artist. And for me to seal the deal in saying there's no mermaid that lives outside the ship, I belong here, I needed to make sure that I carry that and never give up. I belong here. I belong here. Going back, I got on board and told the captain, he wasn't happy with me because of all the mistakes that I was making. Captain, have you ever seen a mermaid? This is one of the things that I was curious to see when I got here, and he smiled. I realized that I had cracked him because I had never really seen that guy smile. And that's when I knew that he's the same as me. He's just as homesick as me. He's got a wife and he's got children. And I started peeling off the onion. When you start peeling off the onion in any industry, when you start peeling off the onion, your skin color ceases to matter. Your gender ceases to matter. And with time, I realized that our hearts beat the same. These guys are for me. They want to train me. And I emphasize this because when I see the youth today, I mentor a lot of the youth. And when it's time to crumble, it's a thing of they don't like me. It's a thing of they don't see me. And I'm against it so much because when I started peeling the onion, I realized that I needed to show up at my best self. Give them something to work with. And that's essentially what I think became a breakthrough in my career. My dreams awaited and they expected nothing less than the best. Every single day I'd show up, navigate the ship. I was being trained. I was traveling the world for free. I had Christmas on board. And what I tell my girls today is that remember, a person who knows your worth will always know that you are worth the wait. And I live by that because the boy never left. And we've been married for 12 years. I then realized that when I came back to Africa and became Africa's first female dredge master, I started getting all this noise behind me and all this media noise behind me, and I wasn't prepared for that. But the challenge was that young girl that kept coming. With every platform, there'd be that girl that says, "Sis Londy, I want to be like you." And the question is, but how? What have I done to ensure that I multiply? After being first, it lingered more to me that I have to be intentional in not being the last. And so the birth of Womaritime came through. But before the birth of Womaritime, I moved to the land side. The biological clock started ticking. I wanted to have a child before 30. And then I became a maritime compliance manager. I was an executive for our largest SOC. Sat in the nice, cushy C-suite. But there comes a time in a woman's life where you just know that certain noises are much louder when you hit the pillow. I was not multiplying. And there's only 2% of female participation in my industry. And so I could not bottle it and still walk cover girl every time, cover girl, without multiplying. And that was the birth of Womaritime Experts, which is derived from women in maritime, elevating and edifying women in maritime. We're a consulting firm, and with every single project in maritime, we're ensuring that there's diversity and there's inclusion. I think that where I sit now, I sit with an understanding that there's been less said about the ocean's economy. And my call to action is clear now, in that the youth needs to know that when they say bring back our land, we can also say the ocean belongs to us too. And I think that for me, I've realized and unpacked so many things around my industry. I know that a girl child or the youth that someone who wants to be a DJ, someone who wants to be a makeup artist, someone who's in production, someone who's an electrician, someone who is a mechanical engineer, someone who wants to be a teacher. All of these careers, they are well encompassed within Ocean's economy. We just haven't been exposing and making aware the youth that when they say 35% of unemployment rate, oh my gosh, we don't have jobs. There's the ocean, and it's a whole economy. And I want to make sure that every single child is aware of that option. And as much as we have little ship ownership in South Africa, but there is an option with Ocean's economy. And so the birth of Global Maritime Youth came with that. I just said one day, I have to have the answer. And the answer is to tap into my international network, facilitating skills supply and demand through global collaborations. And that, to me, has made me sleep a little better, knowing that when we speak of agriculture on land, there's aquaculture in Ocean's economy. When we speak of a girl that did tourism, there's something called coastal and marine tourism. When we speak of engineering, we speak of marine manufacturing, boat building. There's so much more. And I think encompassing this in one, to me, has been the greatest success. I walk the walk of multiplying, and I'm intentional in doing it so.